Welcome to Secure Cyber Connect Live with Jay Adamson and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information cybersecurity, technology and talent acquisition professionals who share their journeys, unique perspectives and offer advice and guidance. Today we're excited to be at the Cyber Leadership Summit in Manchester and we're joined by Tom. Tom, do you want to give us a high level overview of who you are and what you're doing here today?
Yeah, sure. So, hi there. I'm Tom Ballin. I'm one of the co-founders of Cytix. We do continuous application security, specializing in manual testing of changes. So, whenever a business makes a change to their application, pushes some new feature or new functionality, we're there being able to identify those risks even before the business knows about it. And we're here today having conversations with cyber leaders, partly to tell them a little bit about us, but also just to listen to them as they talk through some of their problems and challenges, and really just educate ourselves as much as possible about where we can take the product in the future.
No, that's brilliant. I've been following the business for quite some time and really want to commend you and the team for all the work that you're doing, contributions to the ecosystem as a whole. So obviously you've been engaged with a number of conversations today with CISOs, technology leaders. What's the standout frustration you're hearing time and time again, and what's the biggest challenge you're seeing at the moment?
Well, I don't know if there's just one to particularly pinpoint, but I know the last conversation I was just on a round table where we were talking about means that people have for being able to engage the board in serious conversations about cybersecurity. You know, I think for a lot of organizations or for a lot of individuals inside organizations, trying to get that buy-in and that means of explaining to them why cyber isn't just a cost center, but is actually a benefit to the business and can help enable them to move forward is still quite a big challenge to be able to overcome. And that's certainly been a conversation that people have been open but interested in having.
And why do you think that's a challenge for CISOs, for instance, in this day and age?
Well, I think cyber's always been seen as effectively focused on risk, right? So it's always been about trying to mitigate challenges and be preventative. And that's great, and that's been pretty fundamental to being able to get us to where we are today. But one of the problems with that is if it's just a cost center and isn't directly contributing towards the growth of the business, then leaders switch off, right? You need something to be able to say to them, not just these are the hypothetical things that we may have prevented in the last 5 or 10 years, and things have been going great and we've been telling you about all of this and nothing bad has happened. But if you can't say this good thing has happened, then eventually people just start to switch off, right? You need to be able to tell people, no, directly we have been able to lead to qualifying for these new deals, these new opportunities. We've been able to increase the speed of development as a function by this amount of time, to be able to actually tell people that cybersecurity is a benefit to the business and not just a detractor.
No, that's brilliant. I think one of the key takeaways there is reframing it in business context. It's still the same story, but it's just reframing it in terms of something that's going to be relevant to the CFO, for instance, or COO, for instance.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. One of the things we spoke about on the roundtable was metrics, and one of the gentlemen, I won't mention the company that they're working for, but they're working for a very, very large enterprise organization, and they've completely moved away from any conversations about metrics, and it is entirely now, their board reporting is narrative driven. So it's about telling the story of here's where we were, here's where we are, and here's what might happen if we do X, Y, and Z. And being able to do things in that sort of engaging storytelling way is, I think, a fundamental to being able to actually drive the business forward into a more mature and pragmatic cybersecurity approach.
Most definitely. I think when organisations got a more proactive stance on things, they put themselves in a better position. No one's going to be completely secure. It's about being prepared and instilling that confidence in the boards.
Yeah, I mean, look, we do continuous application security, right? So it's about continuous improvement of the product and acknowledging that this is not a stationary point-in-time thing. And that's true more widely of cybersecurity. It is not you do cybersecurity or you get X, Y, and Z compliance, sir, or you do, these 3 things, you buy this tool, and what you've done there is achieve cybersecurity. It's a continuous gradual improvement program to be able to keep on top of what the latest challenges are, what the latest threats are, and what the latest needs of the business are, because you are growing as a business, and as you do that, you are growing in risks and you're growing in opportunities as much as anything else.
No, most definitely, certainly agree with you in that respect. And where do you see CISOs and technology leaders going wrong at the moment? What's frustrating you? What's screaming out to you? Think when you go into an organisation, when do you think? Is there any examples when you think, oh gosh, what are these guys and girls doing?
I wouldn't necessarily say that there are. I wouldn't want to say that they're going wrong necessarily. Too many of these people, but I do think that when I speak to a lot of businesses and they say, for example, where are you on the Magic Quadrant? The Gartner Magic Quadrant is their key sort of cornerstone for being able to decide this is what we should be doing as a business. I get it, I get the argument, I get the point about being able to kind of lean on some of these key cornerstone industry advisors to be able to tell you what you're supposed to be.
They've got a vested interest though, haven't they?
They do have a vested interest, but I also think that the problem is that we're moving in such a rapid pace at the moment that even these big analyst organizations like Gartner can't really keep up with the trend of things. And I think that, some of the best CISO conversations that I have are with people who are really, really on point, coming to events like this one, where they're doing proper horizon scanning and they're finding out about who's actually at the cutting edge and not just saying, okay, this is what the expectation was a year, 2 years, 5 years ago, but this is what the expectation's going to be in 2 or 3 years. So we're going to find a track to be able to actually bring our organization up to speed with those expectations long in advance of anybody else.
No, I certainly agree, and there's something that I always say to security leaders is shoot for where the puck's going to be. Don't try and aim at where it is at the moment, because you're always going to be playing catch up. Be proactive, and to your point, I think events such as Cyber Leadership Summit, for instance, it exposes security leaders to innovative solutions such as yourselves, your solutions. And with that being said, what's actually brought you here to the Cyber Leadership Summit? I've seen you guys and girls at some of the past events, but why do you keep returning?
Well, I think it's what I touched on before in terms of this is an opportunity for us as much as it's an opportunity for the sales team. It's as much an opportunity for us to just find out from organizations what their challenges are, what their barriers to being able to adopt. We're a startup, right? So we're not the biggest company in the world, and it's really, really valuable for us to have conversations with some organizations that might say, well, we can't work with you now for X, Y, and Z reason. Our own internal onboarding and procurement processes would be too laborious to be able to go through. But for us to be able to learn from them that, if we're able to do these things, if we're able to meet these requirements, if we're building towards the same end goal as them, then actually these relationships are going to grow into something in the long term. So it's really, really valuable from that perspective. It is also just nice to be, we're a Manchester-based business. It's nice to be at these kinds of events in Manchester with other Manchester-based technology businesses. This is a big technology hub, and it's just growing, especially in the cyberspace at the moment. So it's refreshing to be here and actually to see that happen and be a part of it.
And how do you feel sense of community sort of representing itself here? Do you think there's a diverse group of individuals? Do you think there's been a lot of knowledge sharing, or do you think individuals are keeping their knowledge to themselves?
Oh, 100%. Everybody that I've spoken to today said that one of the big things that they've been a fan of particularly is the roundtable conversations. I was on a table earlier with somebody who worked in a higher education sector, somebody who worked for probably a FTSE 50 company, somebody else who worked in a disposal management company. These people all shared that they basically had the same few challenges. They had very, very different dimensions to those challenges and the way that they're trying to solve them. But everybody's been very, very open and honest, and under Chatham House rules has been able to share the way that they've actually, in their journey, been able to solve some of these problems. And it's been really, really interesting, I think, for everybody to be able to get together and actually do that in a kind of trusted place where you're not. Some of these events you can end up with some, especially the ones where it's kind of anybody signs up and anybody can go to them. You end up with some people who aren't necessarily adding true value, but here everybody's here because they've been hand selected and they really want to, and they're really trying to solve problems, and that's just nice to hear that kind of conversation and see it flow.
No, it's inspiring to witness and be amongst it as well. It's an honour, to be honest, and you see brilliant individuals, you see the impact that they're having, not just on their organisations, but the wider economy as a whole. I think security is something that's looked over, and to your point earlier, it's a business enabler and a business driver. I think that's the competitive advantage for organisations if they've got a not necessarily mature security structure, but they've got individuals that are willing to drive innovation, willing to put their heads above the power cell and embrace change, for instance.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen a lot of that. I think everybody here today has come with problems to solve, and I'm hopeful that a lot of people are leaving here today feeling like not necessarily they've solved those problems, but like they've got a next step in that process. We can all find ourselves getting a bit frustrated and fed up, especially in the world post office and things like that, where you're sat at home and you're expected to solve these problems and you've got 1,000 things to try and do, and you can find yourself in a situation where you don't really know who or where to turn to. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are finding that ChatGPT is probably the only person that they can actually talk to on a day-to-day about solving those problems. But like I say, yeah, people that I've spoken to today sounds like they've actually not necessarily solved all of the problems, but come and found some people who at least empathise with them on some of those, and they're going to connect afterwards and have some of those conversations at a later date. I've spoken to our commercial team, and it sounds like we've actually, some of the people have the problem that we help solve as well, which is always a nice bonus,
That's good to hear. And tell me a little bit more about yourself, your journey, to get where you're at the moment. What did that look like?
So yeah, I mean, not necessarily the most conventional route. I'm a high school dropout, but no. So I was a penetration tester for probably about 10 years before this. Used to love telling people I robbed banks for a living. So I did physical security.
I tell people I sell human beings. And
but no, so yeah, doing security consultancy work, working with a lot of different, mostly enterprise businesses, banks, commerce, people like that, trying to find some of their problems, and then ended up kind of running a small consultancy along with my business partner now. And we just started to hear from a lot of people about the fact that this coming in once a year and rubber stamping things was a brilliant opportunity to be able to measure how well you've performed throughout the year, but it wasn't really providing them with the same value. And I started to realize, actually, do you know what? I've been doing this for 10 years, and every time I come back to a business, I tell them about the exact same few things. It's clearly a systemic problem to that. So about 3 years ago, decided to hand in my notice and start up a business for myself, trying to solve one very, very specific challenge, and that's where we've been over the last few years. We've been very, very grateful for the kind of support that, as I say, the Manchester growing ecosystem's been able to provide for us, and the opportunities that we've had in there. And I think we've not solved the problem yet entirely, but we're getting there. We're figuring it out as we go along, and events like this are a good opportunity to be able to test whether or not we're on the right track.
No, that's brilliant. And as I mentioned, I've been following the business for quite some time, and I do commend you and the team for all that you've achieved thus far. And without disclosing too much, there's other founders perhaps that are tuning in. What's one of the biggest mistakes that you've encountered since founding the business, and how did you overcome that, and what was the lesson learned?
Oh, it's too many mistakes to choose from. One of the biggest mistakes. So I don't know whether it's necessarily a mistake, but I think it's a reality of being a startup, is that we definitely started way, way, way too broad and didn't have enough conviction in the element of the product that we do now, right? So we spent a long time and wasted a lot. If you drew our journey, it wouldn't be a straight line. It would be very, very much a zigzag of us being like, maybe we can go in this direction, but also we'll go a little bit in this direction, and hedging our bets potentially a bit too much. You kind of have to do that to begin with, because you are testing a bunch of things to see what really works. But I do think we probably hedged a little bit too much, when in reality, like I said, at the end of the day, this is a problem that customers had been telling us about before we even started the business, and if we'd have been a little bit better at listening, we probably would have known that at the offset. But look, I think it's been a learning experience the entire time, and we are, I think, at a point now where we've got genuine conviction in that we understand broadly what the problem that people have is, and we're working with them to be able to solve it. It's never going to be a finished product, and I'm never going to look at the business and think, yeah, we've absolutely nailed this. The day that I do that, I'm doing something horribly wrong, because that challenge will have changed for the business. But as I say, yeah, we're getting there, and we're learning every day.
Oh, that's brilliant. And is there any advice you give to other founders that are tuning in today?
Don't do it. No. I think I'm always a little bit hesitant about giving too much advice to founders. I know that I spend a lot of my time with people who spend 30 seconds learning about my business and then tell me that they know exactly what I need to do in order to, accelerate it to the next chapter, and that it will solve all of the problems. So I'd be a hypocrite to be telling anybody that I know I've got it all figured out or anything like that. But I would say, speak to other founders. At the end of the day, find a bunch of people who are trusted companions to you, who are on the journey, maybe a little bit later in the journey, some of them, maybe a little bit earlier in the journey, some of them, and at least, if nothing else, it's reassuring to know that you are not alone, and whatever challenges you are facing are challenges that other people have faced, are all or are starting to face themselves as a business.
Yeah, no, I think a problem shared is a problem halved. We don't need everybody to carry the water down the road on their own. There are individuals that have shared mission, a shared purpose, and it's about collaboration over competition. That's how I feel personally anyway, and I know the industry's certainly changed over the last 36 months in particular, and we're seeing a lot more of it. We're seeing a lot of organisations join up, augment each other's service offerings, for instance, allowing access to clients and customers, because ultimately it's about building resilience throughout society. Of course, money is a reward of that, but there are other rewards, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're just chasing the money at the end of the day, as a startup, you're probably going to struggle. What you want to be building is product market fit before even worrying about being able to sell that product, right? I mean, again, I not necessarily every business, you might actually have product market fit on day one of your business, and if you do, I envy you massively, but I think, yeah, some of the best startups and most successful startups that I speak to, some of the people that I would consider to be role models for us when we're trying to figure out how to build our own business, are those people that aren't chasing the next contract, but are people that are chasing the next critic of their business.
Yeah. I've seen the ones succeeding the most, they become the flame, not the moth. And I think we're all guilty of chasing the big enterprise accounts or that ideal client profile. But I think if you're doing something right and people respect it, they will gravitate towards you, which is obviously evident today. I've seen a lot of individuals seek you and your team out today and come over to your table to talk with you. And with that being said, do you mind sharing a success story, perhaps where you've demonstrated real value and impact to an organisation, if possible, without disclosing too much?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly when this is coming out, so I don't know what I can and what I can't announce, but anybody who's got LinkedIn can probably do a little bit of doxing to figure out some of this. But we're about to announce a very big partnership with a company that I actually used to work for once upon a time, who were doing more traditional penetration testing in the past, but have identified that actually their clients, and this is a big company that does a lot of security testing services, have identified that their clients would be served to have this as another option within their portfolio. So we're onboarding them and we're showing them how they can use the same product and the same managed service that we've been offering ourselves internally to be able to be a massive force multiplier. And it's reassuring to have technical peers and people in the industry who are some of the big respected names say, hang on, yeah, this is something that we believe and we buy into and we would like to promote for our customers. It's great us telling customers directly that this is a thing that we believe in, but when you've got a partner like them, then it really comes with a lot more credibility to it.
Yeah, I certainly agree with it. I've been in board meetings and I've been there with CISOs or even fractional CISOs, for instance, and they're trying to drum things into a board and they don't take note until the likes of PwC or Deloitte come in and it comes with a 500k price tag, and it's the same conversation you were having with them 3 months ago, for instance, and yeah, it's certainly frustrating. And for any other organisations that are out there and want to know more about your product and your service and solution, who would you white label that for? Are there any ideal types of partners that can reach out to you and your colleagues to find out a bit more about the product and service and how other organisations, consultancies or MSSPs, for instance, can leverage your solution?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think I see our customer base in two senses. There are people directly who are involved in building applications and responsible for application security. I'd encourage any of those people to reach out either through the website or just directly to myself as well. Happy to have a conversation about where we might fit in with the SDLC. And then the other side of the business, like you say, there are people like your MSPs, your big pen testing providers, people like that. Anybody who is either trying to do continuous testing and potentially servicing it through call-off arrangements or just a bank of days and consultants, or people who are seeing those opportunities and not really able to service it at the moment. If that's a challenge that you're having as a business, then we're very, very keen to have a conversation with you about ways that we might be able to help solve that problem and take the conversation from there. And look, like I say, you can reach out and you can go through the contact form on the website if you want to, but I'd encourage that anybody who does want to have that conversation, I love having those conversations, so just drop us a message on LinkedIn. I'm a friendly enough guy. I'm not going to be a salesperson. I'm a technical guy to begin with. Let's just have a conversation and see where it goes from there.
That's brilliant. And I've spoke to your co-founder about this on a few occasions, but could you share with the audience what does time saving look like for end users? What's the benefit of them engaging and utilising your tools?
Well, It varies a little bit organisation to organisation. A lot of organisations that use us are trying to do some form of change testing, but the way that they're doing change testing is they're basically asking their development team to report when they're making risky changes, and then they've got somebody in the security team who has to review that, decide if it's worthy of testing, and if it is, then dish it out either to an internal testing resource or to an external testing partner and give them a day or 2 or 5 or whatever else it is to be able to do that. We're not necessarily just expediting those roles and those functions. We're effectively performing that entire function for a business. So what we're able to do is within 13 seconds of a development ticket being written to say introduce this functionality or do something like that, we can go through that entire process of identifying that change, summarizing what that change might be, summarizing how it might need to be tested, and then handing it off to that tester in order to actually perform it.
How long is that typically? Traditional methods, how long that usually take?
Well, sometimes it takes a few days, right? So somebody's got to write up that summary of that change, hand it over to a security consultant, or they do clinics in a lot of organisations where they summarise those changes, and then that person's got to dish it out. And reasonably, you're probably expecting, effort-wise, a few days with all of the testing included and things, but over a 2 to 4 week period, potentially. In other organisations, they're just kind of still doing quarterly testing and not doing it at all. But with Cytix in the mix, it is literally 13 seconds, and there's no human interaction at all required in order to get that testing kicked off.
And in terms of, so is it a plug-and-play solution? Is there a lengthy onboarding process, or is it fairly swift in that respect?
Yes, so, I think I did a product onboarding demo where I literally walked through registering an account and connecting it with Jira and having it up and firing, and I use Loom, and I don't think that allows you to record for more than 5 minutes, and I remember pressing the stop button, so I don't know exactly how long it takes, and I've got the advantage that I chose where every button goes, so I know where every button is, but yeah, you can get up and running within 5 minutes if you have the right permissions and really want to.
That's great. We'd definitely have to have you on a live stream at some point, sit down with some of our community members, walk them through that, and I know that would be of tremendous value to them. And going back to obviously careers, something that we like to do to encourage those that are perhaps considering entering the industry or those that are looking to cross-train and develop. So, with your pen testing hat on, what are the 3 pros and 3 cons of working in cyber?
3 pros and 3 cons of working in cyber. Well, look, on the pro side of things, every day is a school day. You've always got something new to learn, something interesting to keep your mind occupied, a new challenge, a new problem. That's one pro. I'll also add that as a con. It's a little bit of both, right? But yeah, the other pros, I don't think you're going to be out of a job. I think that this landscape is, if anything, continuing to grow at an unprecedented rate, and I think that it's massively shifting, but I definitely think that cybersecurity is becoming much more and more of a key topic. You only need to look at the news and see all the headlines that go on at the moment to realise how fundamental it is. And the final pro, the thing that I've always loved about this industry is you touch every part of an organisation. You understand there aren't very many people outside of maybe legal and finance and a couple of other functions within the business that actually kind of get involved in understanding how everything else inside the business runs and operates. And cyber, particularly as a former consultant, has always been really interesting to me because of its opportunity to be able to do that. On the con side of things, like I say, every day being a school day does mean you have to stay fairly switched on to what's going on. I do think that there is still a problem with a lot of businesses blurring the line or not really respecting that cyber is a broad domain, and you can't be an expert in absolutely everything in cyber. The people who claim to be are probably, jack of all trades and complete master of none. But unfortunately for a lot of businesses, cyber is just seen as you are the cyber person, or even potentially you're the IT person and cyber sits underneath your remit. So I think that can be quite hard. And then the third one, and I'm very empathetic with people who are trying to get into the industry at the moment, is that there are not very many entry-level opportunities. There is a skills shortage in cyber. We are missing a lot of the people that we need to be able to fill the roles that we need to.
Why is that, do you think?
I think part of it, is to do with the like higher education training that brings people into the industry not really being there. But I think also part of it is just businesses not necessarily respecting the long-term investment into it and long-term investment into people, so taking people on as juniors and growing them. Potentially also partly that a lot of the traits that make a person good at cybersecurity don't necessarily always make a person good at training other people to be good at cybersecurity, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think that I'm very empathetic towards the entry-level people, because it is hard to find those jobs, especially when businesses can, offshore it, can make it, or can find probably 3 or 4 dozen people who claim to be capable of doing that thing, and not necessarily worrying too much about whether they have the knowledge or not.
And what advice would you give to those that are looking to advance their career, or, like I mentioned, they're a break into the industry? Is there any sort of golden nuggets you could pass off, anywhere of focus people should be focusing on? Is there any holes within security remit? OT comes to mind, certainly an area I advise people to look at, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, OT seems to be a big area that lots of people want to be able to talk about at the moment. AI obviously is a massive area, and people are finding really, really interesting challenges with AI. I was reading something the other day about AI browsers now, and how there's this big risk that you'll get prompts inside websites that tell people's browsers to do all sorts of nefarious things. This is a whole new attack surface that is unlike anything we've seen before. But I mean, my advice is that don't look at it as this, or I wouldn't look at it as this is, let me find and plot out my route into cyber. There have been very, very few times in my career where I felt like I knew what I was going to do next. I'd plotted a route as to exactly what I was going to do next, and it actually panned out. I did like to plan, but it never really...
Again,
exactly. I mean, that might just be a me trait, right? But no, I think realistically, engaging in community events, talking to people who are in the industry, finding things that you're passionate about, same as any other thing, right? You've got to find a labour of love before you really start to accelerate yourself. So do that first, and I think, hopefully that will guide you towards opportunities into the future. When I speak to somebody and they say, but I've got this qualification, or I've done this cert or something like that, those are rarely the people that impress me as much as the people who are like, I went along to the local OWASP chapter or B-sides or something like that, and I had conversation with people and I found this interesting, and therefore, I went back and I started up my local society or something like that on the topic. Those are the kinds of people that I think are going to go places. I have personal biases, and that's not to say that guarantees people a job or anything like that, but personally that's what I like to see.
No, that's brilliant. And just to add to that, one thing that I would always suggest to people that are trying to break into the industry, you don't necessarily need certs, but you certainly need practical experience. And there's a lot of non-profits, there's a lot of charities, even public sector organisations that need support. If you have got a bit of experience, you can offer up your services to organisations, and then you can put that on your CV to say, yes, you've been dealing with data loss protection, or you've been monitoring the SIEM and doing patching for the last 6 months for a non-profit. It's the same as working for an enterprise organisation. Unfortunately, you're not going to get paid for it, but ultimately that's a great way to get through the door.
It is, but I think, one of the mistakes that people make when they do that is they forget that should be more of a reciprocal opportunity than it necessarily is. I get that, people feel like they're volunteering and they're providing some value to that business, but I think that get that business to at least agree to give you some feedback at the end of that process, right? Otherwise they'll just say, yeah, sure, fine, you crack on and you do some bug bounties against our applications and stuff like that, and then at the end of it you don't really know if you've done a good job or not. I think the best way to be able to progress forward is to do that work and carry it out, and then learn to communicate that stuff to them, and to listen to them when they say, actually, these are our concerns, this is what we want you to help us with, and to build on from there. I see 1,000 people who describe themselves as being on the top 1% on Try Hack Me and participating in X, Y, and Z bug bounties, and that doesn't tell you whether they're actually fundamentally understanding how to operate as a cybersecurity practitioner inside a business. That just tells you that they can find bugs or something like that. So yeah, definitely volunteer, use your skills, but make sure that as you're using your skills, you're refining them and finding out from businesses if those skills are as valuable as you think they are, or if there's areas for improvement.
No, I appreciate you sharing. And have you got any final thoughts that you want to share with CISOs, business owners out there?
That's a broad one. Yeah.
Anyway.
Look, I think really the main sentiment that I've developed over the last few years is that cybersecurity is gaining more respect as we become more and more pragmatic as an industry, right? I think that the absolutists of the industry are the people who are starting to die a death and wane away a little bit, because I think that we still have a long way to go in terms of earning the respect of other organizational functions. But being able to actually communicate with people and understand their challenges and understanding that we need to be providing opportunities as much as anything else is going to be the thing that makes us as an industry much, much more respected. So, like I say, I've loved the Cyber Leaders Summit because it's been an opportunity to find out from other people about their pragmatic opinions on various different topics. And as long as we can keep up the pragmatism, that's really where I would like to see us go as an industry.
And last question, if you'd indulge me, 10 years from now, what do you want your legacy to be? If you're looking back on this, me and you are sitting down 10 years, having a little drink, having a conversation.
Just sat on the deck on the yacht and yeah. I genuinely believe that our approach to continuous testing, i.e. to being able to say that you can actually take a function like penetration testing and embed it within a business without creating additional pain and work for that business. I genuinely believe that is attainable and achievable. I would very much like, if nothing else, my legacy to be that if in 5-10 years time people look at pen testing and think this is beneficial and this isn't painful. They don't think, oh God, I've got to bring somebody in again and they're going to call my baby ugly. Instead, it's just a natural embedded part of the organization. If I'm able to accomplish that, it's a big enough task on its own, but if I'm able to accomplish that, hopefully in 10 years time we'll be speaking and I'll have a smile on my face.
Well, I wish you all the best. We're going to be tracking that journey very, very closely, and it'd be great to have you and your co-founder back on the show at some point in the near future for a full-length episode. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks for having me.
Cheers. Do you mind sharing a mistake that you've made in your career and how that's influenced your perspective on cybersecurity?
A mistake?
A mistake that you perhaps made earlier in your career, or a time that there was a F-up, and how that affected your perspective on cybersecurity?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been discussed earlier with our colleagues here. So the mistake that, sometimes, and it goes back to the challenges as well that I might, some of us might have, is, being a woman in the tech industry, right? So that's not always straightforward to be a woman in tech, because it's sometimes questioned also, is she fit enough? Because dominantly it's mostly a manly business, right? So mostly we have men ruling the tech business. And sometimes the mistake that you may make as a woman in the beginning of your career, that you are not confident enough, or you have sometimes, intuitions that you feel not confident enough to express your opinion because you are fearing judgment, you are not good enough because you are already facing certain situations when it has proved that they don't look at you when they have a conversation because you haven't proven enough that you are fit for that position or for the discussion just yet, because they don't know you yet, right? So the mistake that I think some ladies, make earlier in their career, that they don't have enough self-confidence to stand up for themselves and speak up in front of an audience, right? Or in front of, even in a meeting, right? When they have an opinion about something and they don't feel like expressing that in a tech environment in particular.
And I appreciate, first and foremost, I'm sorry you had to go through that early in your career, but appreciate it's probably something that's still ongoing to a certain extent. What sort of things have sort of helped you address those challenges? Has it been external support? Has it been something that you've...
It has been, I'm very grateful for my for later on the leaders that I've been in with my executive management currently or earlier, you know, that they have been really standing, you know, behind me or my other, you know, female colleagues, because a senior leader giving you that kind of confidence, you know, which is going to resonate with you, and you have given from someone who's very respected in the organization, gives you your confidence to give back, you know, to express your opinion. So essentially this was, you know, the major, let's say, help from an organization. But also because once you took the courage to express yourself, excuse me, later on, of course, it gives you confidence as well. It worked one time, so I can do it again.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So in terms of frustrations or challenges that you're seeing in the industry, perhaps with your peers or even clients and customers, you know, what's the one frustration or challenge that really stands out to you, and what are you personally doing to help organizations or communities address that?
I think from a tax perspective as well is always the balance of keeping up with the latest trends, right? And balancing the latest trends with compliance matters and so forth, but also resources availability and finances, both from manpower point of view and finance point of view. This is the biggest, let's say, challenge, I think, in the industry, because everything is now, especially with AI and all the recent development we have seen, companies to keep up with competition, companies to be productive, efficient, everything, you know, it is a big load on the organization in terms of your people, right? Because it gives a certain uncertainty for your people. Do I have the knowledge to keep up with the trends as a professional, right? Whatever the trend is and however it affects. Then for the organization, how do I make my people confident enough, right? Because they already know my organization, to gain that knowledge. Do I hire in someone new? Do I hire in third party? It introduces different type of risk in the organization. Do I want to be still the first one to, you know, to reach the ultimate maximum in whatever that I have to provide, right, as a service or a product, because of keeping up with the trends? Is the trend actually proven trend, or am I jumping on something which is just like, yeah, somebody invented, you know, you know, and actually, yeah, I may be the first one adopting that trend and you know, jumping on the train to sell something, but actually it is not a proven trend. So all this kind of different relationship that the business has to assess, I think it can be hard, but it's everything about balance, right? And the right decisions at the right time with the right people. And if you bring together a trusted team around the organization who knows, you know, different part of the organization, internally, externally meaning your external environment in terms of legal and, you know, the legal environment and whatever affects situations, but also external in terms of your people, knowing your customer, current and potential. If you bring those people together, knowing this environment, then you can make the right decision, hopefully, to see how to, you know, mitigate whatever is coming to you or manage whatever is coming to you as an organization.
No, that's some great points. I think cross-department collaboration certainly is important.
Yeah,
a lot of organizations do
Yes.
work in silos and you're
Yes.
pulling in different directions. So of course you need that common goal, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's absolutely crucial to have the common goal, because then you can really, you know, if the organization, what I said before, doesn't have the right resources to see, but then you start focusing like, okay, we have all decided to start. We want to do, you know, on our wish list we have 50 points, but actually we have decided together with the different departments, we are going to select our top 5, right, and spend on those, because we are committed to this and we are going to do it together. We are going to do it faster, smoother. Every point will be thought of, right? Instead of everybody doing different things, and probably none of it will work, you know, in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, collaboration, absolutely critical.
That's brilliant. And In regards to the event itself, obviously Cyber Leadership Summit, why are events such as this important for leaders?
I think it's very important from different perspectives. First of all, to see from the presentations the latest trends that you are also bringing for us to learn about. This is one thing, and then to see and meet and discuss different type of challenges with each other, right? So the attendees as well, because we are coming from different industry with different experiences, different sizes of companies, different scenarios we have been experiencing. So sharing this kind of insights, how you managed, which part of your strategy would work for me, adapted, is crucial. And these type of events give that type of intimacy, right? So we still have quite lots of people, but it's not a huge event, but you are motivating people to have, of course without giving our company secrets, but an intimate discussion which will help to grow together, so still, making the tech industry, while some of them maybe are competitors even here, right? But trying to find the best way possible to solve a situation because of the lessons learned we have had in the past. So I think that's why these events are very, beneficial, for us at least.
That's brilliant, appreciate you sharing. And if you're looking at the next 12 months, is there a safe prediction and a bold prediction that you have for 2026?
In terms of tech?
Could be tech, could be culture, could be sort of geopolitical, could be something wild, quantum could hit us.
Yeah, but something, but I'm sure is going to happen is that AI is going to come into every company, and then there is no way for us to ignore, the impact and also the risks, let's say like this, so positive or negative. So risk meaning negative risk that then can be coming to a company that we have to face from the information security perspective of defending ourselves from different type of threats coming through AI. But also for sure, safely we can say that it will give the companies also benefits, right? So to do things faster, to do things more efficient.
And is there any optimistic or bold, outlandish sort of hopes that you have for the next sort of 10, 12, 24 months even?
Well, the most optimistic or outlandish, we said like it's a very nice event to intimately speak together, is that something's finally, whatever is happening in the world, at least it brings together fully Europe,
Yeah.
To face any type of challenges that we have, and we are starting to act really together to be more efficient, right, and act as one Europe, So we like to say in many organizations, one this, one that, but let's act one Europe, whatever it's coming to us, in the most friendly but productive way as well, right?
No, that's brilliant. And look, 2 more questions, and then obviously we can carry on networking. Do appreciate your time. And is there any myths that you want to address within the industry? Perhaps you hear over and over again certain things which is not true, that you feel needs a bit more light and attention, for instance.
Any myth? Any myth, okay, maybe it's a funny one to be honest, is that maybe the myth is that security people are not standing behind the business, that they want to slow down the business. No, this is not what we want to do. We want to create a secure environment for the business to grow, to have their apogee, really to have their best time ever, because we are protecting the organization. So the myth is in certain organizations, can be that security people are not innovative or they are very strict. Yes, we are strict, but for the benefit of the company and for the better growth of the companies or the organization, whatever it is, protecting.
That's brilliant. And for those that are perhaps looking to enter the STEM, tech and cyber sector, Are there any roles within cyber, for instance, that if you were to go back or if you were to start your career again, that would be of interest? And if so, what would you say the sort of 2 or 3 pros and cons of that position within cyber looks like? And the reason I ask, of course, our podcast looks to try and motivate and encourage people to enter the industry or cross-train and develop, and of course, highlighting career pathways and raising awareness. That's obviously an important factor.
I mean, yeah, there are different type of roles, and of course, if you want to be more into IT part of things, right, it's different. Different kind. You have to be really knowledgeable of every type of IT trends that's coming up to you. In relation of other roles in cybersecurity, I think it's, of course, every organization is, depending on the size of well, is setting up the different roles more in a granularity, or more persons taking care of more roles at the same time. But when you start your career, someone in cybersecurity, right, or information security, so including physical security as well, to start as an ISO, of course, an information security officer, you gain a good understanding already of an organization in general, because you may be involved in governance, you may be involved in IT, you may be involved in all different kind of processes within the organization. Now there are much more roles which are, it depends, what is the person. It's a difficult question to answer, because it depends on the person what they are trying to find, right? Because there are much more widespread roles, which is an ISO. There are much more focused roles, for example, a crisis management professional, right? Or a forensic professional, or somebody who is an ethical hacker, or is quite focused. That you can be aspiring to be a CIO or a CISO or whatever, then you have to gain a more widespread knowledge, right? More lateral, more horizontal, so that you can understand different kind of the organization. So it's a pretty difficult question you're asking me, actually. What role is the best, or what are the pros and cons? But definitely, if you want to have a good understanding of an organization, starting even as an internal auditor within an organization for information security, will give you a very good view on the organization, what can go wrong, and you can still decide, okay, I'm really interested in going into IT, right? Or I'm really interested in remaining in the auditing part of things, or I'm interested in more policy making, right? So then you can really choose from an internal auditor point of view, because you audit every part of the organization, which role you want to go inside. I don't know, that's my 5 cents to it, because it's a difficult question that you
really appreciate it. Now, like I said earlier, you don't have to talk about the business if you don't want to, but is there anything else that you want to share? Perhaps you work with other special interest groups, or there's something that you hold dear. Given our podcast, we like to raise awareness of things, so underrepresented groups, people with neurodiversity, suicide awareness, that sort of thing. So platform's free for you now. Is there anything that you want to sort of disclose or share or address that you feel is important to you personally? Any final thoughts?
In relation to anything?
Anything at all. Anything that you feel personally needs more light, or that's important to you.
What is more important to me? I think it's very important in general, whether and whatever industry you work with, is that you treat people with compassion, right? Understanding. Everybody has their story, so trying to find a common point of discussion and agreement is crucial in taking the next step, whatever you are trying to reach, right? It's a friendship, it's a business relationship, it's an appointment at the municipality, or whatever it is. If you're trying to be compassionate with the other person, understand their point of view, be kind, even if the other person may be having a bad day, so is answering to you in a not the best way possible, you can sort it out with compassion, right, towards the other. So I think this is my message, because then there is And I always say, there is always a solution. This is the solution, because then together you will always come to a solution. So this is my message.
That's brilliant. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to Secure Cyber Connect Live with Warren Atkinson and Jay Adamson, where we're joined by information cybersecurity, technology and talent acquisition professionals who share their journeys, unique perspectives and offer advice and guidance. Today we're thrilled to be here at Manchester at the Cyber Leadership Summit, and we're joined by Bennett. Bennett, how are you finding things?
Oh, really good. Thank you very much. And nice to see you again, Warren.
It's great to see you as well. It's great to see you. So what brings you to the summit this year?
Of course, it's a Cyber Tech Leaders Summit, and one of the things I've come to do is to learn. Learning never stops. Like I said in my last podcast, with you guys, learning. I've come here to learn. That's what brings me here, and this is one of the richest ways to improve oneself. When you're right there in front of the table with the group leaders, you will actually pick up a lot.
No, that's great. And is there anything that stood out this morning throughout the talks, the round tables?
Yeah. So this morning we've had the talks, really great sessions. I think one of the things that have stood out for me is the roundtables, because now we are facing ourselves now one-to-one. And I can tell for sure that everyone feels a certain kind of pain. Depends on the degree. You have people who will say, hey, you know what, my humans and my table was around human, centered, security. And so, we've talked about a lot, even on the stage, but then again, what I found out is that leaders actually have that same pain point, although at different degrees. And when you think you have the worst setup and everything, you find people who are in the worst situation, but also better because you learn from them. And so what we've done today on the roundtable is we've actually had to discuss, and I'm happy everyone was able to open up and share, and everyone picked up a few things, from each other. I picked up a lot of things from other people who have discussed, right? And I'm going back to see how I can use that to help organizations, get better.
No, that's brilliant. And from all the conversations that you've had this morning, and of course, in terms of what you've been doing day to day, what's one of the biggest frustrations you're seeing in the industry, and what's one of the biggest challenges?
Frustrations. Everyone is bolting on AI on everything. Everyone tells you, in fact, those who's selling them newspapers, hey, this AI newspaper has AI on it, the AI can read it. I'm like, it's simple, but why I said that's a frustration is because now there's a lot of noise and less signal. So, frustration in the sense of trying to decipher between signal and noise, those who are really, really doing the right things, doing the things that you need to be done, and those who are just more of opportunistic and trying to sell. Yeah. And they are very good products, don't get me wrong, very lovely products on their own, and I think bolting on AI should be on a when needed basis, that kind of thing, right? And not just bolting on and add plus AI at the back, kind of thing. When it comes to products also, I've seen very, really good products, even right here today. We've had a lot of discussion. I can see where products actually do come to help. And I would say the other thing when it comes to issues or problems in that sense is humans.
Yeah. Humans.
How do we ourselves become security conscious? How do we become security champions in the business? How do we help humans become or drive security in the business? So those are the problems.
What are the top 3 pieces of advice you would give any organization addressing that challenge? What's going to be low-hanging fruit? What's going to be the greatest impact?
Good. So I will start with this, right? When it comes to technology, you look at people, process, technology, IT and security, people, process, technology. People are the easiest to drive. Technology can be done with money, but when you blend process for people and technology, you can easily create great processes.
Yeah.
Right. So low-hanging fruit, people. Let people have that understanding, because people are, even though they say people are the worst or the riskiest users and the riskiest part of the business, they can be the greatest asset because people do enable technology. And what I think is the training and awareness. It's not just sitting down on the desk and saying, hey, here's a 1-hour annual InfoSec training. No, you have to be down there on the floor with them, on threshing floor with them. Hey, you know what? Think of security. Have you thought of security today? Have you thought of security tomorrow? If we're able to do that, we find out that people tend to pick up and also become more, security champions in the area of business.
And on the champion side of things, or even any security teams, how important is it for them to be seen by their colleagues and peers in other departments to influence culture? Is it important that security personnel are on the ground floor, for instance, walking around and giving people that nudge without breathing down their neck?
Yep. Yep. So one of the things with champions and security is this: when you look for the teams, and that's what I said on the table also, is that people think security is about technology and saying the buzzwords everyone needs to hear, right? But you need to be the best salesman ever, right? And how do you do that? You need to influence one person, to influence two people, that influences four people, that influences 8 more people, right?
So starting with a small step,
Small steps,
one at a time.
one at a time, right? So look for the most influential person within the team, right? And look for those who are around them and see who you can influence first, right? Once you're influencing, they carry the fire and light up others, and that's the way it has been, right?
Yeah.
And so, as I said to you, it's not just a matter of selling tech or preaching tech. It's a matter of letting they themselves understand why, and then they begin to carry fire within their teams. You can't speak the language better than their team, basically.
No, that's brilliant. And I know since our earlier discussion, AI, agentic AI now, it
Yes.
certainly help advance the skill set of people,
Yep.
especially those that are using it obviously ethically and they're exploring with this.
Yep.
So from your perspective, how has the market changed? Is that barrier to entry lowered, do you think, or do you think it's higher?
So when it comes to agentic AI, for example, no one needs to build from scratch anymore. It's just a matter of bolting on and tuning to suit your need.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's lower, basically.
No, that's brilliant. Well, Ben, it's great to see you again. Looking forward to your talk at the Cyber Leadership Summit in London this coming year. And good luck moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
So could you briefly share a mistake that you've made earlier in your career and how that influenced your perspective on cybersecurity and empowering other individuals to enter the industry?
Yes. So I think that in one person's career, mistakes should happen so that they could have, the full curve of, full learning curve. So I would say what mistake? It could be the fact that I became a security and risk officer because I am really groomed to be more of an IT project manager in the beginning. And then I went on maternity leave. I came back and they said, well, there's no more information security office. We were taken over by Royal Bank of Scotland, and you're now the security and risk officer. And at that time, I was like, well, I'm focusing more on my motherhood, on my family, so whatever it is in the office. And I feel like, okay, I'm doing now, business continuity and user acceptance testing, which is something outside my comfort zone. And I felt at that time, maybe this is a mistake, but actually it propelled my career in cybersecurity. It became the basis of being a country security officer. So from information security to business continuity, I was thrown into fraud prevention, threat intelligence, assurance, third-party security, etc. And looking back, like in hindsight, it was such a pleasure, having all of these really unplanned events that you thought were mistakes at that time, but really it's just driving you, to some sort of a direction that would make you thrive.
And I appreciate you sharing. And you work across the industry, of course. I've got peers. I've seen you engaging all day.
Mm-hmm.
What are the main challenges that CISO security leaders are facing at the moment? And is there any advice and guidance for those that are listening in to address those challenges?
No, definitely. So if you have quite a senior role, you tend to carry on the challenges by yourself, like solely, and you feel like you're siloed. And despite you do have your network, in the office, or a sounding board in the office, it's not the same as talking to, another person with a similar role, because then you know that they are speaking your language, your professional language. So what I see is that everyone is just, very much happy, if I can say it plainly, to be actually having a dialogue with somebody of the same position and carrying the same challenges and the same, I would say, problems as well, right? And when you
sort of connect in that level, you realize that, oh, I'm not alone, and actually I'm in the right path, and we're doing the best practice. And when you align and you benchmark, it's sort of like a nice breath of fresh air, to be connecting, and you're again out into the real world and feeling really refreshed that you're doing the right thing. So I think it's the same feeling for everyone, and it's sort of like a common theme where people are hungry to connect and to pause, like I said in the podcast, I think it's just a human nature to align and connect. So it was really good connecting, and I know that it is reciprocated to by most of the people who came into this summit.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And of course, you spoke today. You were excellent. I know a lot of people were coming up to you to get
Thank you.
Some feedback on that as well. But could you share with the audience perhaps what you addressed in today's panel and some of the key takeaways?
Yes. So today we talked about supply chain risk. And yesterday it was compliance. And I guess here the key takeaway really is to build this personal relationship and to find a culture within your teams or within different teams that you often work with, so that you can relate more in terms of your value level. And also connect better and work better as well.
That's brilliant. And obviously security, cybersecurity, information security, data protection, as a whole ecosystem. What would you say are the main pros and the main cons of working in tech and cybersecurity? And perhaps something that will resonate with women or female or underrepresented groups that are perhaps within the STEM arena looking to transition?
Yes, I think definitely the pro can easily be a con. The pro in cybersecurity is that it's very innovative, so very interesting if you are into lifelong learning. So if you like to learn new things all the time, I think this is a very lucrative career, for that. But on the other side, if you're not into learning something new, something that's a fast-paced career, then this could be a con, because if you stop learning, then it could be that the boat could sail away. So I think the blessing could be a curse. So at this point, we did discuss about burnout, and I think because cybersecurity is very innovative, very fast-paced, burnout is real. So I think you also have to devise a way on how you create boundaries so that you have a good work-life balance and you get to recharge, and that you don't make yourself depleted, and that you're always, let's say, on a sort of a positive in most of the things that you do. Yep.
That's brilliant. And is there anything else that you want to share with the audience, anything you want to address or raise awareness of, for instance?
Yes, so for the audience, I would like to invite you to attend these networking events like Cyber Leader Summit, because it's really a great way to network, to meet like-minded individuals, and have a break, and of course have a nice time as well. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Welcome to Secure Cyber Connect Live with Jay Adamson and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information cybersecurity, technology and talent acquisition professionals who share their journeys, unique perspectives and offer advice and guidance. Today we're thrilled to be at the Cyber Leadership Summit here in Manchester, and we're joined by...
My name is Ife. I'm Senior Information Security Officer at Equinity.
Well, Ife, thanks for joining us. I know we've bumped into each other a few times now.
Yes, we have.
I'm glad we can actually eventually do this. So what's brought you to the summit today, and what were you looking to achieve?
Well, two things. One, I hope to be a CISO one day, just like everyone, and this is an event where you have almost the largest number of CISOs all in one room, so what better place to be than here?
No, that's brilliant. And over the course of the day, I know there's been a lot of panel discussions, round tables. You've had the opportunity to, converse with other peers within the industry as well as leaders. What's one of the challenges or frustrations that you've heard from attendees, and or perhaps from the industry that you feel needs a bit more light?
I would say one that called to almost all of us was having to over complication that comes with the supply chain risk, which is something we've seen happening in the course of this year. It's been a mess in the retail industry so far, so that has been one that has that got us speaking, got us talking, trying to find a way to uncomplicate that whole chain. Yeah.
And what do you think that's important moving forward? I know obviously there's been a lot of attacks, and I think history's taught us 6-7 months later, organisations unfortunately forget what they've learned. So why is that important? Why is it important that we continue to look at the supply chain?
It's great to continue to look at it. At the same time, we need all of this. We can't do everything ourselves. We need the suppliers to be able to kind of give us a buffer in areas where we're not able to do ourselves. At the same time, while we're trying to make it more secure, we should also try and make it less stressful. We don't have to send the 700, 800 questionnaires. Everyone is complaining. So finding the right balance between all of that manual compliance way and having to focus on the risk-based, smarter way is the way forward.
No, I appreciate you sharing. And you mentioned obviously you aspire to be a CISO. Tell us a little bit about your role at the moment. How did you transition into that? What was the draw to cybersecurity originally, if you don't mind me asking?
So I've always been a tech person. I have a background in engineering, and I've never practiced as an engineer. I've always been tech all my life, from networking to server management and upstream. I was fortunate to be the network manager at one of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup a couple of years ago. That kind of sparked my interest in going into cyber, and for the last 15 years I've been in cybersecurity.
Well, that's brilliant. And the role of CISO probably is evolving. We just sat in and watched 7 individuals talk about that. What are your views on the role of CISO? Do you see it being more technically focused? Do you feel it's more business focused now? Is it a blend of both, or is the role perhaps dying out, do you think?
So I had that conversation, interestingly, a couple of hours ago. I still believe that to be a CISO, you have to come from a technical background, and then you have to now merge that business acumen. So it might be easier to have a technical background and learn the business than to have the business idea and then go back to start learning your technical foundation and fundamentals. That struggle might be there. So some people believe you don't need to be technical to be a CISO, but I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either. I feel that the individuals, leaders, they need to evolve over time. It's always a learning period, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree too.
And when you entered the industry, and obviously you're looking to advance, what are some of the challenges that you faced when you entered, say, 15 years ago versus some of the challenges you're seeing at the moment for those that are looking to break into the industry?
I would say there's a lot of noise now. So everyone has jumped into the industry, and because what the average company has to face is how to deal with the 10,000 noise there, just the same way we have in our SOC sometimes, to be able to pick out that 1-2 talent that you need to get out of the pool to solve your problem. So they get overwhelmed by all that noise that they tend to miss out the real things.
Yeah.
And that's where you come into play.
And what do you think the long-term effect is if security teams, security leaders aren't getting that reduction in noise, they aren't getting the peace? Do you think there's a knock-on effect from a personal perspective to the teams as well as the business, for instance?
Well, it might just be a now thing, because I think that's where resilience come in. If we're able to, at the end of the day, all this noise will definitely utter down, and then it's not those that have been resilient and standing by, being tough through the entire process that will stand still.
No, that's great. And as you mentioned, you've been in the industry for quite some time. You've worn many hats. Is there something that you're proud of or excited about that you've achieved? You mentioned obviously that reward a few years ago.
Well, it's a number of things, but then I wouldn't attribute any of them to me, and for NDA reasons and confidentiality, I might not be able to point out one, but I would say those experiences cannot leave you. You have a way it shapes into how you become a leader moving forward.
Yeah. And from your perspective, if you were talking to individuals that are considering moving into cybersecurity, they may be those ones leaving university, or even senior individuals within existing businesses that are looking to cross-train and develop, what would you say the 3 pros and 3 cons of working in cyber are?
It's broad. So if you are a medical doctor or a human resource person, for example, I'm not saying human resource management is not broad, but compared to cybersecurity, you can be in IAM, you can be in risk management, you can do GRC, you can be in offensive, you can be in defensive. So pick a niche, pick where you want to start from, and then make sure you're a master. Don't try to do all. It's not going to take you anywhere. Yeah.
And support networks, is that something that you've lent on? Were you part of any communities, mentorship programs? Did you come up with peers through the ranks that you lean on now, for instance?
Yeah, so LinkedIn has kind of helped me. It has reduced the bridge between having to travel all the way long distances to meet people. It has also reduced having to go through what some people have gone through. So that has really helped me. I've met great people on LinkedIn. I've connected with them, and over time they've given me support. A lot of people have reached out to me on LinkedIn as well, and I've in turn giving them the same support I received from others as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. And what do you think of the industry? I know everyone's talking about AI. I've heard conversations around quantum readiness, for instance. Has AI enhanced your abilities within your role and those around you, for instance?
So I was in a room a couple of years ago where I made a statement. I said AI is going to help us more than it's going to break us. And then 90% of the people in that room didn't agree with me. Fast forward to today, 90% of those people have AI adoptions in their role or the organization one way or the other. So AI has come to stay. Whether we like it or not, bad actors are using it against us. We have no option but to bring it in our own war.
Do you feel that there's a role for AI to play? Do you feel that it's going to replace some of the lower level and entry jobs, for instance? So there's a lot of chatter on LinkedIn. People saying that SOC analysts, for instance, level 1, 2, are going to be replaced, even GRC. Even when it comes to the automate, we see a lot of vendors here today saying that you don't need all the team. We can deliver that for you on a subscription-based model. What are your views on that?
Well, I sit somewhere in the middle. So would some roles be replaced? Yes, I agree, because you don't want your SOC analyst spending time on false positive when an AI tool can quickly sort that out. But it won't entirely replace them. It just gives them room to be able to focus on more important things to do rather than just spend all those time. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. And we've still got another day and a half here at the summit.
Yeah.
What are you really looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to the networks. I'm looking forward to the talks. The round tables are great. It's good to sit with a number of people, heads of industries and CISOs, and to hear their own views and seeing that we are all having to experience the same issues and finding a way to solve them. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, look, really appreciate your time. Hopefully you can
Thank
rejoin
you,
us in the
Warren.
future for one of the panel discussions.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Thanks, Epi.
Thank you.